And we're back on All About Healing, WOLB, Baltimore. I am happy to have as my guest today Terri Keener, who I met in Las Vegas. She is the Behavioral Health Coordinator at the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center. Terri, welcome to All About Healing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Terri, before I begin talking about the type of trauma all of our American families are facing right now, I first want to extend my condolences, my sincere condolences to the family of Crystal Sanchez and Eric Lloyd, both members of Las Vegas Metro Police Department. We are so sorry for what their families are going through. And every time we lose one of our heroes, one of our servants seeking to help people, it's a tragedy to our entire community. So I want to extend my condolences to Eric's family, Crystal's family, Sheriff Lombardo, the men and women of Las Vegas Metro Police, all the wonderful chaplains that work to uphold that department in prayer, and just let them know that we're praying with them through this time of sorrow.
Thank you. That means a lot to our community.
Terri, we met not in the best way. So interesting, the work that I do, a lot of it, and I'm sure you feel the same way, we wish there wasn't a reason for us to meet people because we meet them in crisis. And very often we meet them in very serious crossroads of crisis. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you've been doing with the Resiliency Center since the 1 October attacks that the world watched in horror in Las Vegas?
Yes, of course. Thank you for that opportunity. So as the Behavioral Health Coordinator, my job is to do everything I can to make sure that anyone impacted by that incident gets their wellness and behavioral health needs met. And as you know, there were over 22,000 ticket holders for that event, as well as all of the first responders and last responders and medical staff and concert employees, concert workers and Good Samaritans, and just so many people, especially when you consider the ripple effect of the 58 who lost their lives that night and all of the other individuals who were connected in some way to the event. So I have talked with survivors and the bereaved and others impacted all over the country, in other countries, as well as all of those who want to be helpful to those people. And we're doing our best to connect them and get everyone whatever it is that they need at whatever time it is that they need it. We found that the timeline there isn't a specific timeline to healing. It happens when people are ready. And we just want to be there and be present and be able to help whenever people are ready.
Well, the first visit that I had an opportunity to make to the Resiliency Center, I was very impressed with the warmth, the environment, very welcoming, very calming for the people that would be coming in seeking help. Of course, the last anniversary, I've been there for both anniversaries with the families and with my friend, Mayor Goodman, who I'm praying for every day, Sheriff Lombardo. And, I think about the parallels, Terri, from Oklahoma City, for me, to 9/11, to Las Vegas, on to Parkland, the parallels that so many citizens who are losing their loved ones to coronavirus today. The suddenness of having someone snatched out of your life, no preparation, no inclination that something that drastic might happen all of a sudden. The parallels for me are very stark in what many of these 160,000 family members and friends of those that have lost their lives to coronavirus. It's so overwhelming. You know, I want to cry with each life. So at 160,000 Americans, I'm living in a river of tears, and we still have to fight through this. Do you see those parallels as well?
Oh, yes, of course. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is a different kind of trauma than mass violence, but it is large and overwhelming and is absolutely trauma and grief and loss and many things mixed in as the rest of people's lives continue during this very unusual and challenging and traumatic time.
It is. This pandemic is challenging in so many different ways. I mean, you know, the planet has essentially been shut down. I'm up early every morning. I got a deal, Terry. I got to tell you how good God was to me. God says, get up, go out and pray. This must be in March when things first got bad, and I was in New York. And I go out and I do a Facebook Live about sunrise every morning. Have not missed one morning, I guess, in 5 months now. And I question my audience that's up at 5 o'clock in the morning watching or 6 o'clock, whatever time it is. But the one thing we try to do is always give a shout out of thanks to our first responders, our police, our fire, our military, our first responders, all the essential workers. Some of my best friends, my new stars in my life, are all in the supermarkets that I see at 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning. Throughout this period, they've been there for us. They've made the difference for our lives to go on. And it's given me a different perspective because I often think, had God not assigned me, well, I could wake up at 12 noon and pull the cover over my head and say I'm depressed today. But it's been a blessing because I get up motivated to say to everybody, look, we're in America. No matter what we face, we have to have hope that we're going to come through it, and we come through it together. Of course, we have distractions, but for me, the number one fight that we face right now in America is staying safe, staying healthy from coronavirus. And I'm wondering how many of the people that you've dealt with concerning the Vegas response are coming to you now with after effects and you might say PTSD effects from the coronavirus pandemic.
Well, I don't have specific numbers and data, but there are a lot. We have a lot of people coming forward who are either just now realizing the impact or have the coronavirus and the situation that the world is in right now adding to the burden that they're carrying and making it much more difficult to do. And so it's time to get some support for that.
You know, that is the most encouraging information I can ever hope to hear, because it seems so difficult, Terry, for people to reach out. Now, I understand a lot of us are stunned. And, you know, sometimes you're stunned. You're like a deer in headlights. You don't know what direction to go in, and you're frozen. But when you say the people are coming to you, that's the answer to my prayers, that people do not just sit and internalize and feel badly and not talk to anybody, because that can lead to very bad things. And we've seen the desperation in people rise as suicides in the nation continue to increase across every demographic, whether it's our young people, regular citizens, particularly the area of first responders. You know, last year we had 4 suicides in the month of April, I believe, with the NYPD. 4. And we had more. And this is not, we just had a couple in Chicago with police officers, people that are under pressure. But these are the people that I've been talking to, Terry. In some cases, this September will be my 19th year working with the 9/11 families. And I have some police that I've been talking to for over 18 years that will talk to me, but they will not reach out for help that can give them some tools to work with when these triggers pop up.
Yes, it's very difficult for those, especially those who are the heroes and the helpers and the supporters and the ones that others turn to. It's very difficult to reach out and ask for help. So we're really glad when people do, and I think that what you're doing here with this show and many other avenues and ways of trying to put the word out that there is someone who cares and wants to help. We just, we need people to make use of it.
I often think that my group, our group, I should say, that we're some of the worst offenders because I believe that a lot of our first responders feel that it's their job to rescue, to save. And it doesn't seem that we think so much of saving ourselves. The first thing that I learned in coming to the 9/11 response as a chaplain for the Red Cross was how important self-care is. Well, that's important whether you're a caregiver, a first responder, or just an average person. In the midst of this type of confusion and pressure, many of us forget to take care of ourselves in some way, to keep our balance. Even though, we're all off balance, we have to maintain a certain semblance of balance to be able to function. A mother, a father that has to take care of their children, I feel for them under the enormous stress of trying to communicate with their young people, encourage their young people. My heart cried for all the students in this country that work so hard to see their graduation and not be able to have it. So this pandemic has done some things that I don't think was on anybody's radar screen. And yet is what we have, and we have to go forward.
Exactly. And, one of the things I find myself reminding others as well as myself of on a regular basis is it seems like it shouldn't be such a big deal. People are working from home. Well, how many people have always wanted to work from home? But it's more stressful and more difficult to make that adjustment than everyone realizes because of the circumstances behind it and because of the logistics, such as having the kids at home too while you're trying to work. It's really a challenging situation. Hearing the news every day of the loss and the numbers and the confusion about the numbers, it's very stressful. And I encourage people to allow themselves to understand that and feel and know that that is a burden, that is something that needs to be taken care of, because if you take care of others, we need, in any way, like you said, in any capacity, we need those people to be at their best. We need them to be functioning and managing, and that means they have to take care of themselves as well.
Terri, I'm going to take a quick commercial break here on the Love Train of Healing. We're inviting everybody to get on board the Love Train of Healing. We're coming through coronavirus. We're going to do it together. When we return on All About Healing, I'm going to talk with Terri about some tips that people might find helpful and working their way through this. And one of the things I want to talk about is how much media we should be intaking, because it is a big stressor. So we'll return right after this commercial announcement on All About Healing. And we're back on All About Healing on WOLB Baltimore. My guest today is Terri Keener from the Las Vegas Resiliency Center. Terri, one of the things that I have found myself doing with many incidents of school shootings and tragedies is to encourage people not to watch the news. When the Las Vegas shooting took place, I immediately thought of my friends in Oklahoma with the Oklahoma City bombing. I just thought, what a trigger this is going to be, because the news everywhere is wallpapered with the incident. And frankly, I'll never get the image out of my mind of the shots being fired from that hotel down onto that field of innocent people any more than I'll ever forget seeing the Murrah building in Oklahoma City standing there, half of it, after the devastation that unfortunately we have to see man wrecks on man. The aftermath requires a lot of discipline, and it's hard for people to not watch these images. Can you speak to what it does to the average human being to just ingest this type of media, these images over and over?
Well, I think you bring up a really important point, and I know that I traveled shortly after the 1 October incident and was in another state, but still saw the images on every TV in the hotel where I was at a conference. And when I introduced myself at each seminar, I began to introduce myself as being from Nevada rather than Las Vegas, because it was just too much.
Yeah.
And so we do talk with people and advise people, to manage their exposure to information, watching the news when that's your mindset and that's what you want to watch, and you're looking at a credible source, then, I think that that's okay. But when you are inundating yourself, or you are finding yourself just unable to look away from the train wreck, so to speak, or unable to stay off of the social media where it is everywhere, it really is important to your own well-being to manage that and to have some control over it. And unfortunately, with some of the things that are, all the wonderful things about social media, but in addition to that, things pop up. One of the things we talk with people about from 1 October is to turn off or manage, the memories that pop up. Because things in social media pop up that you are not prepared for. So as much as you can do it in a controlled way, when you're ready and you want to spend 20 or 30 minutes doing some research and finding out what the status of the world is, go to a credible site and check it out. And then have something else planned to do when that 20 or 30 minutes is over, so that you know that you need to turn it off and go back to, doing and taking care of things in your life. There's so much information out there, and it can be very confusing and upsetting.
I, just before the show started, I was watching some information about foreign entities being involved in propaganda pieces being run through the American media, through social media platforms. And, very often people, unless you're in media, you're not necessarily that sophisticated about what a credible source is compared to just somebody putting some information out. There's really no reason for you to be, and there's so much information that's being thrown at us. So it's, I just find it hard, even when I'm suggesting it to people. I know that temptation. I stopped watching television for a couple of years, and one of the reasons that I stopped was because I realized that you could sit down in front of a television having no intention of watching what's on the screen, and then an hour later you'd still be there watching it. It didn't matter what was on; it just grabbed your attention, and unless you're otherwise engaged, it's got you. And then I'd always say, "Well, that was an hour that was shot," So I didn't like that, and then finally I just kind of just shut it down and occupied myself in other ways. But with coronavirus or problems of the day, many of us are looking for distractions. And it's hard to be the television set for a distraction because it's always got something there that will appeal you, that will catch your eye. So is there anything that we can say to people that can help them manage, discipline themselves? In other words, understand, this isn't good for my health mentally. This isn't good for my blood pressure to stay down because it's all so upsetting.
Well, it is a difficult thing, especially, when we're so restricted in what we can do and being able to get out and do things other than watch the TV. But, we suggest it's having a schedule and a routine and building in things that are beneficial and helpful, even if you get outside or change rooms for a portion of the day, if you can, that is helpful. Finding something creative to do, use the information that's out there on the web to learn a new skill, or try listening to a new type of music. But if you can have a schedule and you can build in the things that are important, as well as some downtime, and that can be very helpful. It's difficult to do because everything is so unstructured right now. But I tell people, set an alarm, set a timer, write a schedule down on your refrigerator list, or even just a list of what you plan to get done today. If you're not a scheduled person, you need to spend 30 minutes doing this and 30 minutes doing that, and I'm going to limit my media time to this amount of time. Connect with other people in some way. Even if it's I tell people, just send a text with a funny joke or a funny picture to somebody. And, if they have time to respond, they will. But they may just appreciate that you reached out. We've got to stay connected with other people.
Well, Terri, we're going to stay connected. I have a station break coming up. We'll be right back on All About Healing with Terri Keener, who's helping us with some ideas about making it through coronavirus together. We'll be right back after the station ID. We're back on All About Healing, WOLB Baltimore. My guest today is Terri Keener, calling in from Las Vegas. Terri, every day I wonder personally how people are making it, what fuel is getting them through, because I have a source, and 42 years this September, my source has been God to make it through. And I encourage people, some will say a higher power, whatever. We must look to something bigger than ourselves when we face serious crossroads in life. And at this time, I know a lot of people are wondering, after 3-4 months of isolation, not being able to see family, not being able to see friends, the hardship that's attached to it. I just pray that people will look outside themselves for a source of strength to help get us all through.
I think that's very important. People are feeling very isolated and alone right now, and it's important to have, a sense of purpose. And this is kind of messing with that for us.
When we talked earlier, it's a term that you used, and I try to remember it. Which I'm not that excited about my memory. I should have written it down. But it was something like trauma for the foreseeable future from this coronavirus pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah. You were talking about this is going to be with us for a while, and it's going to have an effect on us for a while.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of unknown, how long is it going to be? And no one, I don't think, expected things to be this long. And so now we're having to kind of deal with things day to day. Things are changing on a day-to-day basis. It's very difficult to predict the future. And even when it is predicted, then it changes. And so this is something that is here and does need to be acknowledged. And, like I said, reach out to others and share that burden. This is more of a burden than anyone thinks it should be or thought it would be. And for everyone, those who've had loss, definitely more impacted. That it is a loss of, in some way, for almost everyone. Loss of control over our future, loss of control over what we can do today, loss of some freedoms, loss of some choices, and that has an impact. And it's important to acknowledge that and take care of ourselves.
One of the things that I try to encourage people about is that, this will be, again, my 19th year. It seems like yesterday with the 9/11 families, 9/11 responders, many of whom we still have dying. I just got a notification from John Field, who's our hero, that takes care of all our 9/11 responders, making sure that they have proper insurance, that their families are taken care of. Just received the notice of another passing within this hour, a police officer from the NYPD. These things that we have to face, it's very difficult to imagine day after day after day that we can't escape sadness. We can't escape man's inhumanity to man. However, what I'd like for you to do is give us a glimpse of what it is for people overcoming. I've been to the Resiliency Center with a survivor of the shooting that talked about the help that the center provided, helping them go forward. And this is what we have to do most of all today. We have to realize no matter how great this problem is, that there's healing from anything. When you lose a loved one, it's their expiration date. It's not yours. You still have to go forward. Maybe you could talk about a couple of success stories of people that you've seen that came to you very broken at the Resiliency Center, who have since been able to go forward because they've done the work required to reach out, to avail themselves of the help that you and the Resiliency Center offer.
Sure. Unfortunately, I'm not great at stories and remembering all those things, but we have had many people say that they really didn't know what they needed. They didn't really know that the center would respond and be available. They didn't know what answer they were going to get when they were asking a question. But there really is help and support out there. And what we try to do at the center is figure out what it is for that individual person, because it is different for everyone. And so, one of the individuals that contacted us needed a service dog, and she was in therapy. She was getting to a certain point, but she still needed something more, and that was recommended. And we looked around and gave her some resources, and then she did the work to get connected with the program, and she was able to actually receive a service dog, which was, not something she was expecting a yes answer to. There are people who just want to connect with other people who have been there or who understand it. There are people who reach out and say, I think I'd like some help, and services, are offered, and they're not ready at that moment, but it's there when they do become ready. Sometimes just checking on someone, just saying, hey, we're here, we're thinking about you, or just making that call to say, will you be there when I am ready, is very important. But many people have found a lot of different ways to move forward. We took a group of people out to an equine program just to kind of learn about it and check it out. And, someone started volunteering there and spending a lot of time there, and that's been really helpful to that person. So we really just don't know, for sure what's going to help. So we keep trying all kinds of different things. And I also tell people, if you try one thing and it doesn't work, that's okay. You've learned something. You know now that that's not the best thing for you. So you go and you try something different. And what courage it took to just try something.
Yes.
So, we did have one person who I met at the first year events, and this person was very distraught and upset and not understanding the impact that it was having, and said to me that they were unable to find a therapist where they lived, and they lived somewhere outside of Las Vegas. And so I gave the person my information and said, I will help you find a therapist. And the person did contact me, and I did locate some people who were willing to help to provide therapy. And at the second year, I was fortunate enough to have this person find me and say, you know what, I went to therapy and I'm better now. I'm still not, I still have work to do, but I'm better now. And that was kind of my starfish story, I call it, because I felt like, all of that work that I did to find the right therapist or help that person find the right therapist, and it was beneficial, and that person came back and let me know. But that's the kind of thing that we do every day, and we don't always hear back, and we don't know. But just taking the first step, and we'll take whatever first step it is with you, no matter how small or big it is.
Well, of course, I'm personally in your debt. Bringing people to you in crisis, that you've always had a direction. You've always had encouraging words. And a lot of time, someone was on the show the other day, and they were talking about people feel that it's a sign of weakness when you reach out for help, but in fact, it's really a sign of strength. And somehow we've got to let people see that message more, to hear that message more. It's not a question of I'm not strong enough to handle it. We all have moments in our lives where we need help. You know, I challenge people every morning to be a hero in the 2020 pandemic book, because we're going to have people that checked on a neighbor down the street, that called an old friend, that says to somebody, you know, I'm struggling with this myself. How are you doing? That remind people, you know, we need you. Your family, your friends would suffer greatly from losing you. Please wear your mask. Please social distance. It's that human contact that connects us in a way that lets us know somebody really cares. And frankly, I'm not the type of person that yields to fear, because I stand on faith because of my knowledge and belief of God. And yet, I'm so concerned for so many people that feel isolated, feel alone, and may consider trying to get out of life, escape life, because the pressure is too great, rather than reach out to someone. And this is why, I have to give kudos to Mayor Goodman, Sheriff Lombardo, my chief. As a matter of fact, my former chief, Willie McDonald, has retired. God bless you, Chief. Thank you for your service of Las Vegas Fire and Rescue. But these people in the community, along with you, that have made it possible for people to know you don't have to go through this alone. Somebody is there for you to reach out to. We have to find more ways to encourage people to feel free to do that.
Absolutely. It's definitely a sign of courage. And I often ask people, how did you find the courage to step through our door, or to make this phone call, or to send this email? Because I want to acknowledge how I understand that took a lot of courage. And I thank and appreciate all of those who have let me be a part of their most difficult moments. And they're always paying it forward, because everyone that I come in contact with and am allowed to walk with and offer assistance to, I learn from, and that helps me with the next person. So everyone who reaches out for help and allows someone in to give them help is actually also paying it forward in a way that they don't even realize.
I certainly agree with you. Before I get in trouble, Terri, and need help myself, it is my sister-in-law, Angela Minson's birthday, one of the best sisters I ever had in my life. Happy birthday, Angie. Let's have a round of applause for Angela Minson today. And we're speaking about crossing bridges in life and getting to the other side able to help somebody. Reminds me of Bridge Over Troubled Waters. So as we go into our next commercial break, we're coming back on All About Healing with Terri Keener from Las Vegas, talking about helping people. Get on board the love train of healing. And we're back on All About Healing, WOLB, Baltimore, 410-481-1010. It must be some type of holiday, because I have Terri Keener on the phone with great information, and nobody's calling. But I'm not mad with you, because I'm enjoying every word she's saying. I'm being lifted by it, and I hope that some of you are listening and taking this information, because somebody you know, someone in your family, some neighbor, some coworker that you haven't seen may need some inspiration. And that inspiration may come from you. And if you reach out to them, it gives you an opportunity to speak about what's going on inside of you. Coronavirus has done one thing. It should have made every man and woman on the planet understand there are no supermen, no superwomen. We all need each other to go forward. The water is trouble for us all, and we are each other's bridge to get over it. I've seen Terri's work, and I'm a huge fan of hers and the Las Vegas Resiliency Center. Terri, I remember being at a session that you did for first responders. And, those that go out there, I always say about our firefighters, our police, law enforcement, and our military. These are people who go out routinely and help save people's lives whose names they do not know. To me, that is miraculous that you give your life as 343 firefighters died on 9/11. And I think about them looking at that fire in the World Trade Center, but they didn't turn around. They went, they did their job, and they paid the ultimate price. We have greatness in America that goes unnoticed every day. So I know that we have the tools to help most of us come through coronavirus. And, I'm just so thankful for people like you and those that are working with you at the Resiliency Center, because the people of Las Vegas, like the people of America, we're all being challenged to do what is necessary to duck, dodge, bob, and weave an invisible, insidious, cruel killing of children, adults, the elderly. It does not discriminate. So we have to really be on our job. Is the Resiliency Center doing anything to get word out to people about the need and the necessity to come forward and to talk about their fears, to talk about what it means not to have a job right now, to talk about what it's like trying to feed a family with no money, to talk about the possibility of losing their home? Is that something that you find coming in your direction now?
Yes, we do have that coming in our direction. And as you know, having been at the center, we have many different types of resources in addition to behavioral health that are available, so that hopefully no matter what someone presents with as their primary concern, we can help them find a direction to make progress or take steps forward or get what they need for that. There are a lot of resources that have been freed up or made available due to coronavirus. There has been increases in access to mental health and healthcare. There has been warm lines set up and other resources specifically for medical staff and providers and for first responders and essential workers and all of those people who are still out there helping others every day and saving others every day and watching as they're not able to save others every day. So there are things there, and we are doing everything we can to get the word out. We have events. We have a calendar on our website with events that we have going on a monthly basis. And there are many resources out there that people can find through some of those main connections. Their 211 organization, the Disaster Distress Helpline, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Many states have various resources set up specifically to help with the stress and the loss from coronavirus.
Terri, in closing, the time goes so fast when you're getting really good information and uplifting information. Do you have anything you'd like to say to our teachers, our students, and our parents facing a school year like never before, I'm sure they're very anxious, and I just thought you might have a word you'd like to say to them.
Well, it is a very anxious time, and all of that uncertainty is very difficult. And so I think staying connected is very important. Students have teachers in their lives. They're a huge influence on their lives and very important to them. And teachers have found so many ways to be creative and stay connected with their students. It's just been very inspiring. And so I think I just would encourage everyone to be creative, to go with what we've been given as much as possible, and to not give up, to stay connected, to keep reaching out. Again, so many creative ideas. There are things we can do. We just have to open ourselves up to those and talk to each other and listen and find a new way.
Well, that's very, very good advice. Terri, one of the things that I've discovered about God in my life is that the things I require to get through every day are always there. Not having anything to do with me, but because of what I believe to be God's grace. And I'm so honored to have met you. I'm even more honored to see the work that you've done for people that I know who have been able to advance. And I want to thank you for being a guest on All About Healing. And I just continue to applaud the work of the Resiliency Center, all of your colleagues there working hard to make a difference in people's lives. And I hope we'll have another chance to discuss going forward from coronavirus in America to keep our American citizens alive. Thank you, Terri, for being with us today on All About Healing. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do and for the opportunity to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, dear. Well, that's our show for today. All About Healing, WOLB, Baltimore. We will be back on Monday. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. Wear your mask. Social distance. Remember, we need you. We need you. You call somebody today and tell them that, and make sure they're doing everything to stay alive so that we can get through coronavirus and make America even stronger. I'll be praying for you. God bless you and your families. Get on the Love Train of Healing.